Welcome to this special edition of Discovering Biblical Treasures, a mini-series where we're going to take a look at the events that led up to Chanukah, and we're going to be doing this by looking at the book of the Maccabees, 1st and 2nd Maccabees. But first, let me tell you what 1st and 2nd Maccabees are about and why you can't find it, perhaps, in your Bible. And that is because 1st and 2nd Maccabees are books that are in the Apocrypha. Now, if you happen to have a Catholic Bible, you should be able to find actually 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Maccabees. When Martin Luther translated the Bible from its Latin version, the Vulgate, to German, he noticed that there were some books that he could not find in Hebrew, but he could only find in Greek, that were in the Hebrew scriptures or the Old Testament. And he decided to not translate those books because he felt that they should not be part of the canon, that the Hebrew scriptures should be pure Hebrew books. So you need either an Apocrypha or you need a Catholic Bible. NRSV does have a very good Apocrypha, which is the one I used. We also have to now understand a little bit of the history. So just a couple minutes on that. The diaspora is where the Hebrew people were expelled into the world. It came about because of the Babylonian exile. And when Babylon attacked Israel, or Judah actually at this point, they destroyed the temple, they destroyed Jerusalem, they took the people into exile into Babylon. Most of them went to Susa and to the capital city. But when the Persian Empire came, who followed the Babylonians, King Cyrus said to the Hebrew people, you can go back to your land. A small percentage of them went back to the land, but the rest of them had, 70 years went by, they developed businesses and family and attachments to the land. From there, the Hebrew people are going to spread out throughout the Roman Empire. The main influence that occurs here is Alexander the Great. And he brought Greek rule into Mesopotamia, down into Egypt. He went as far as Afghanistan. His empire basically took over when it defeated the Persian Empire. There were two kingdoms that are important to us in the Chanukah story. One is the Ptolemies, who were in Egypt, and the other one, a Seleucids, who were in Syria, which comprised the Galilee and Judea at that time. The reason I'm telling you about the two kingdoms is, and I should know, when Alexander died, in his will, he divided the Greek kingdom into 4 kingdoms, or maybe I should say the Greek Empire, into 4 kingdoms. The Ptolemies actually ruled Judea from 300 to 198. And then the Seleucids, Antiochus III, who was the king, annexed Judea for his kingdom. There was a lot of fighting that went on between these 4 little kingdoms, which I think weakened them all. Antiochus IV is a main character. And what he wanted to do was to introduce ordinances of the Gentiles, the ways of the Gentiles, the culture of the Gentiles into Judea, into Jerusalem. He wanted the Jews to stop following their ancestral law, as he called it. He also wanted to build a gymnasium. He wanted to remove the marks of circumcision. He wanted Jews to abandon their religion. And he wanted Jews and Gentiles to be indistinguishable inside of his kingdom. The gymnasium in Greek days is where they had sporting events. A lot of the sporting events were nude. There was a lot of sexual immorality going on. These things were totally contrary to the Hebrew scriptures and to God. Also, during this time period of 175 to 164, Antiochus decided to invade Egypt. Antiochus IV was victorious, and in 196 BCE, he came to be at home in Jerusalem. He put his palace there. He plundered the temple. The problem with it was the temple also served as a bank for the wealthy. So a lot of people lost a lot of money. He sent mercenaries to attack the city, to take women and children, to sell them as slaves. And he built something called the Ankara, which was basically a fortress and a garrison to keep his people. Prohibitions that Antiochus put in place: no Jewish rituals, no circumcision, no purity rituals. Pigs were sacrificed in the temple. He even erected a table upon the altar in the temple for pagan burnt offerings in December of 167 BCE. In 166, the following year, is when Jewish resistance started under a priest named Mattathias. He had 5 sons: John, Simon, Judas, Eleazar, and Jonathan. The name Hasmoneans, which you may have heard, which refers to them at times, was derived from Mattathias' grandfather Simon's name. Maccabees, as they're normally called, I should say normally, generally called, means hammerer, because they are going to hammer the Greeks. The cause of the rebellion was the sacrilege that Antiochus IV committed in the temple, and they were very much against the new Greek order. In 166, Mattathias dies, and he tells his sons, live for the covenant of God, keep up the resistance. And Judas is appointed commander of the army by his father before he dies. Mattathias foretold the fall of Antiochus IV and the kingdom, which would then allow Judah to become an independent nation. And the Maccabees lived mainly in a town called Modin, and that is where Mattathias was buried. This is part 1 of an 8-part series. I think I forgot to mention that at the beginning. So now we have the stage set. The resistance has started. Judas Maccabee is in place. And now we're going to get, next time we come together, I should say in part 2, we'll start talking about the resistance of the Maccabees to the Seleucids' control. God bless you, and thank you for listening to this part 1 of the 8-part series of Discovering Biblical Treasures, the Chanukah mini-series. God bless and shalom.